this pattern requires a hair stick, or it requires a woven hair hackle that's 3/4 of an inch wide. Not how many hair sticks I need, but 3/4 of an inch wide. So, as I'm doing this weaving process right here, when I get down to the part where I think I'm close, I actually take a ruler and I lay the ruler right along those woven knots until I see 3/4 of an inch wide. And then when I see 3/4 of an inch wide, then I know that my woven hair hackle is as wide as it needs to be. I don't know how many hair sticks I use. So how do you get out of this? Well, we're going to do a whip finish. And keep in mind, to build a woven hair hackle, I would use many, many more hair sticks than this. But just for demonstration purposes, let's suppose this one's finished. I'll take the loop.
June 21st.
I'll take the loop and I'll cut the loop. So now I have two each side of the loop. Make an overhand knot. Slowly close the knot. I'll do a second overhand knot. Slowly close the knot. Now that's the whip finish that holds all of those hackles, those woven hackles in place. I'll take the finished woven hair hackle and I lay it in a groove. So here would be an empty spot. I could just take the finished one and lay it in that spot. And this tool that I made right here holds those nicely in place. So, now what do we do with this? Let's take a hook.
So, unless people want to double up.
And I'll move right along with this. Okay. The first element I'm going to tie in will be a tail. So my jam hitch is going to be toward right in front of the hook point. I'm going to wrap the hitch edge wraps going toward the bend of the hook. Until I get to the start of the bend right there and go back to the tying spot. I'm going to take 2 pieces of tail material. I'm going to tie these tails in. After I tie them in, I'll mount them without touching them. Pinch wrap, tighten, tighten, tighten. Make sure everything's right on top and that those 2 pieces are separated. Holding wraps going back towards the bend of the hook.
And then I was thinking too, if the time frame becomes around, that's not.
Until I get to the last wrap of the thread base. Around, tighten. lay it down, flatten, lift, and when I reduce the tension, I'll see a loop form going toward the bend. Go under both pieces of tail, gently come forward, secure that. Flatten. Now I want this loop to go between the two pieces of tail material. Come forward. Tighten. Then 1 drop of UV resin, and this resin is going to go not on the thread. I want 1 drop to go right on the pieces of tail material. And that 1 drop, when I cook it, will grab both pieces of tail material and hold it in place. But it also forms a ball underneath the tail material, so that tail is secure. So we're going to wrap thread going forward to about the 80% point right in there. Edge to edge, tightening that off. Now we're going to do something now that you may have never seen before, but it's an integral part of this. We're going to weave a body onto this fly now. And the material I'm going to use is called Gemsbok. This is a Gemsbok tail. A Gemsbok is a South African antelope, bigger than a horse. But this hair is really, really good for woven hair or woven bodies. So what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll take a bundle. You see how nice and long that is? And one of the nice features of this is it's got uniform length, and you'll see why that's important here in just a minute. Well, I'll take that bundle, cut it free from the tail. And this step might seem a little peculiar, but I've learned that about 30 strands of this tail are precisely what I'm looking for, precisely the size that I need. So it sounds kind of peculiar, but I will actually count these very quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 1 more, about 30. Okay. Now I've got about 30 strands of Gemsbok tail. The next step will be to find out if I have any short pieces in there. So I take the tip and I'll start down about this far, that is 3 inches, so, and I fold it up. If I have a short one, it sticks up. I take it out. Come down a little further. There's a short one. Come down a little further. There's a short one. I start with about 30 strands of hair, and I usually end up with 25 or 26 that I can actually use in the weave. I'm going to tie this in on the far side of the hook. I'll do a loop, catch it, bind it. Now I want this to be on the far side of the hook shank. Try not to disturb my tail. All the way back to the tie-in spot. And here, at the tie-in spot, I'm going to actually make about 3 or 4 edge-edge wraps, because when we start the weave, we actually pull this forward. And if I don't have a good secure base right here, it'll slide all of that out of place. So I'll just start to do some edge-to-edge wraps going toward the eye right there to help secure that tail on that side of the hook shank. Go back forward. The next thing we use is embroidery floss. Embroidery floss typically comes in about 6 ply, and that's a little bit thick. So I'll pooch this out, and I'll pick 2 strands out. Okay, now I've got 4 strands of embroidery thread. And this, I will invert my hook, lay this in place at the same tie-in spot as I want to loop one to the rear. Precise tie-in spot, I want this right on the bottom. So spiral loops going back to the same tie-in spot with the hair and the tail right back there. Once again, some edge-to-edge wraps going forward. Come back to the front. Okay. Now this is where we'll do the weave. This is called the Franz pot body weave. And we'll go. What I'm looking for here, I'm trying to narrate this as I go, but what I'm trying to do is keep this hair flat at this point. And so I'm going to come over and come around, back up on this side. Try not to disturb my tail. Take the embroidery thread, go around and snug it in at the base, and then go around the hook shank. They come side by side, slide them over, and now with a flat wrap, I want the hair to go around. Around the base, go around the hook shank, slide it down. At this point, I'll make sure that my tops are, the hair is edge to edge, that it's covering properly. Around the base, around the hook, straight up. more. Okay, that's about as far forward as we're going to go with the weave. And this is a very, very crucial spot right here. How do we tie this off and not approach taking space from where the wing will go? It's very important that at this space I take the embroidery and go around, but not around the hook shank. I'll go around and hold it in place. Lay the hair forward. Catch it on a thread wrap. You can see you got a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah.
So I should have a good, I'm going edge to edge toward the bend. And this should be securing the hair on every turn. Lay the yarn or the embroidery thread forward, tie that off. Probably got one space in there that I would have fixed as we go. Alright, we'll do a little cleanup. And for cleanup, I like to advance the thread forward and work toward the bend to form the flat surface or a head, either way. Okay. At this point, I'll pick a woven hair hackle. Okay, we'll take this one. And you'll notice when we took it out of the loom, I've got one side that's got the knots in it, and the other side is where the loop was. I tie it in with the knot end forward, catch it, edge to edge going toward the eye. And then I take the knotted portion, fold it back, and tie in over that again. And I do that because remember that loop is monofilament. And when you fold it back, the knot lines up right there. And so it doesn't, if it attempts to slide, it doesn't come free. Okay, now we'll take the woven hair hackle. And you'll notice I leave a space right here between where the hackle begins and the hook shank. That's so I can guide this directly in place. And when this woven hair hackle begins to touch onto the woven material, it has a tendency to stand up straight. See that right there? It stands up straight. So that's where I place my finger on it to help it go around. Grab the loop end and continue wrapping forward. Edge to edge, just like you would a feather. Tricia, how's that?
Good. Pretty good.
Now here's where I'll go 3 times around that loop again. Third time. When I come straight up, that formed half hitches in there. So I've got half hitches, and I can tie over top of that going back to the material. I'll move the thread back to the eye, and I'll begin to make edge-to-edge wraps, shaping the head. This is exactly the shape I want it to be, right up to the base of the material, the wood. At this point, we'll do a standard proper whip finish, meaning that the vertical thread, this thread right here, the vertical on the whip finish starts at the material, goes around at the material, then I go edge to edge toward the eye. And now when I close this is the closing step. When I close this, all of this thread here is going underneath the coils that I formed, which closes, and then a little tug seats that knot. This is a knot. So it's a procedure of coils that are compressed, that close and are seated. And then once that's closed, now this is something you might not have seen before. I don't use head cement. This is called healthy hoof. We used to buy this in big cans, and we would take paint brushes and paint this product onto the hoof walls of our ranch horses. And I got to thinking one day, well, if that's strong enough to protect the hoof wall, all the stuff they stand in, think what it would do to protect the head on my flies. So then I started to study the ingredients in this compared to head cement. We all know about Sally Hansen, hard as Hall. Sally Hansen and hard as Hall are exactly the same thing. And the acetone chemicals or elements in head cement are the same in Sally Hansen's. This has all of those same acetone elements, but this also has methyl ethyl ketone, it has a triacyllamide and a formaldehyde. So what happens is this product will seep into the thread, it dries and hardens, and it's strong. It'll hold that eye in place, that head in place. So I just put a drop right there, and then I'll help it go around the hook shank, around the eye, the head. I'll give that a chance to soak in and dry. And it dries fast. Then I'll take, once again, 1 drop of UV resin right on the top, and 1 drop of UV resin right on the bottom. Cook it. And the thing about UV stuff is, I see tires hold this real close, and that actually hardens the UV resin closer underneath the layer. It actually weakens it, but if you hold it away a little bit, the key is to keep it moving and let it cure, let it cook evenly all the way around. So with a combination of a healthy hoof and a kind of UV resin, that's not going to come apart. So that is that one we call it a dynamite. Now the actual profile of that one's called dynamite. It's a bronze pot woven body hackle and a woven hair hackle. And once again, if you weren't here when I did the beginning, the reason this stuff is cool, it's special. If we dress a fly with a normal feather collar or feather hackle, when that fly gets wet, the feather collapses around the body of the fly. It doesn't move. But if on this pattern, it's woven like a wig. So when that hair gets wet, that hair will stay away from the hook shank, just like you see it, and it wiggles. It doesn't collapse. So this will get optimal movement, no matter what kind of water it's in. But this one, as I said earlier, this one it's called the sandy mite. And they called flies mites back then. This is supposed to imitate the larval stage, actually, of a stonefly. And they thought stoneflies were helga-mites. So Franz Pott designed this whole series of fly patterns. He called them mites for stoneflies, but he thought they were helga-mites. But anyway, this was the most purchased fly in Montana for 50 years. And that's attested to by George Grant, who owned the fly shop. But in addition to the sandy mite, Franz Pott also made the dynamite, which is this one, and very, 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 very durable. I throw them at bass all the time, and they just love it. Matter of fact, I made one in Texas. We don't have a lot of trout, but we have a lot of bass, and so I took that same dynamite fly pattern, and instead of that orange embroidery floss, I used polar chenille. That green stuff on the bottom is polar chenille that I wove in with the hair. And what's cool about that is that polar chenille has a UV quality and it wiggles too. So very, very attractive to brim and to bass. So, and with that, any questions? You get all that, Patricia?
I did.